The bottom line is when you're thinking about tax, generally, if it's related to your work, keep a copy of the receipt. There's your starting position, okay? So if it's something that I use for work, tools, clothes, like as in work boots, protective gear, sunscreen, if you're in an outside profession, keep track of your sunscreen purchases because that's a good one. The bottom line is, as good sound starting position, keep all the receipts for all purchases that relate to your work, even if they're not listed in what I've given up here. Because at the end of the day, at the worst case, you can come along and say, I've got a receipt for this, can I use it? And you can say yes or no, but if you've got no receipt, you can't claim it. Now, the following is a list of suggested tax deductions that can currently potentially be available to you as an apprentice. Now, I've done this, most of these ones are really related to sort of building and related trades. So they're generally going to hold true for most apprentices, but bear in mind that, you know. So cost of any compulsory uniforms, protective clothing. So if you've got to wear safety boots, keep the receipt. That's a deduction. Boots, overalls, any of that sort of stuff, keep the receipts, it's deductible. Cost of laundry and maintenance. So if you've got to do repairs on it, or you're washing it on a regular basis, which let's face it, you'll have to anyway, keep track of it. Your travel costs, which includes bus, train, whatever, to attend any meetings, any seminars, any training that you've got to do. Okay, so if you're coming along to something like this, keep track of your costs for getting here. If you've got trade school one day a week, keep track of that. Travel costs relating to picking up materials or deliveries. So if you've got to use, example, if you've got, I'm probably all too young to drive, but if you've got a case where you're having to drive to pick up materials for the boss, keep track of the number of kilometres that you do it for. Chances are he's probably going to send you to work ute anyway. If you've got more than one job, or like I said, if you've got like a trade school you've got to go to, keep track of the travel distance that you go between those. Again, that's something that's deductible. Any self-education expenses. So if you've got to buy books, any fees, any stationery, equipment, meals, travel, accommodation, if the course is related to your current work, they can all be deductible. Union or professional fees. I've already said quickly, any tools, repairs, depreciation, that sort of stuff is all a deductible expense. And any work-related postage and stationery, which that's probably not going to be a big one. If you are studying, the other thing to keep an eye on is if you're in a flat and you've got internet usage and you need that as part of your course, deductible. And most of the courses you do now would have an online component. So that $30 or $40 or $50 a month, your internet fees, if a third of that is used for while you're doing your study, a third of it's deductible. Work-related telephone and mobile calls. If you've got a prepaid mobile phone, you can't say, I spent this much on phone calls, because you didn't spend this much on phone calls, you bought a prepaid card. So unfortunately, you're not really going to be in a position to claim anything for that. But the other side, advantage of a prepaid phone card is you can't spend more than the prepaid amount before you go out and replace it. So I'm not suggesting go out and get an account. They're specific ones. You've got general expenses that are then going to be your tax, accounting costs, bank charges if you've got to have your pay paid direct into an account, and a lot of places do nowadays. Then the bank charge costs that relate to that can be deductible. Donations to registered charities, and income protection insurance. And if you haven't got income protection insurance, it's maybe not a huge deal when you're on a first year wage, but the thing you've got to remember is if you stopped tomorrow because something goes wrong, you still need to look at how you're going to survive past that.
Where you said you can claim things for tools, etc. Just to let the apprentices know too, I've had the question, because they actually get an incentive payment from the government, which is called a tools for trade payment. So they're given an incentive payment to purchase their tools and school amounts, etc. Still can claim it because you could use that money for anything. It's not earmarked for tools, etc. So still keep those receipts and use them for tax purposes.
And a donation is a donation. I know, and you'll find that it's in bold, and that's because it's one of my pet hates. A donation is a donation. I give money to somebody for something. If I get a raffle ticket back, I haven't donated, I've bought a raffle ticket. If I get a pen back, I haven't donated, I've bought a pen. People have trouble getting the difference. Donations are a wonderful thing, and I 100% agree with donating, and I donate myself. But donation is not buying stuff. And the number of people that come in and say, I've got this $4 receipt for this and this $10 receipt for that. That was a raffle ticket. That was you bought something. Main thing is though, keep the receipts, because at least if you bring it in, I can say, no, it was a raffle ticket. Or I can say, yes, that's a legitimate donation. It was $10 to the Salvos. That's fine.
What about timeframes for doing your return? So
If you do it yourself, you've got till the end of October. If you don't get it done by the end of October, you lodge it yourself, you'll get a late lodgement penalty. So if you're not going to get it organised by October, so now you lodge it yourself, you lodged it late, you get a penalty.
And what does that look like, Peter? What's the penalty look like?
$110 for individual. It's one unit, and the unit's currently $110. But if you,
But we could pay you to do it for us,
which would be about $121
which we could then claim
as a deduction, whereas you
for
don't
the
get to
next
claim,
year, right?
but you don't get to claim the penalty.
Okay. So once you're past October, you really might as well pay someone else.
You might as well
to
start
do
looking
it.
for an accountant. So if you haven't done it by now, go
Tax
find an
rate for
accountant.
the following year for you.
Plus, you get to travel to and from the accountant as well. So if you're living in Buninyong, and you come into town to see an accountant, there's a 30-kilometre return trip, and you did that just to see the accountant. Remember that. I loathe this shoebox method. You're only just an individual, and you haven't got a lot of other tricky stuff to do. Then that's enough.
Just
keep
the receipts,
keep it in
receipts in a
receipts.
box or something.
If you're using your car to do stuff for work, then, or if you're driving from work to a course or study, then you need to keep some sort of a diary and say, here to here it was 8 kilometres on this day, and it was because I went from work to where I do my course. You don't need to buy a logbook and do something fancy, but you just need to keep a
notebook
record.
or people's diaries is going to be okay.
More than adequate.
What about from home to work?
No.
No.
No. Deductible is from okay,
Trade school?
Two-
Trade school's okay?
to and from work to trade school. So if you turn up at work and then go to trade school and then come back to work, that travel from work to trade school and back. Anything to home is not. If you've got bulky tools, then this one is. So if you have to have a ute for whatever your work is, and you've got to carry around a whole heap of stuff, then that travel is deductible. But if you've got to do the scenario where, like for me, I don't need to carry a whole lot of tools. Okay, so I'm not going to get a travel from home to work as a deduction. All right. Where I was working in Melbourne, because I worked 2 days from home a week, the 2 days that I travelled to and from work, those 2 trips were deductible because I had to take boxes of files backwards and forwards. If you were a carpenter and you've got your tool stuff and your other bits and pieces and your ladder and all that other stuff, that's probably a bit much to be leaving sitting on some site somewhere while you work. Bulky tools, that's fine. The ballpark rule that the ATO said is about 20 kilos, which is a lot. But anywhere down as near as 5 kilos, you've got a good chance because you've got a heavy toolbox, you've got other bits and pieces. How are you going to get that on public transport?
What about tools, heavy tools going to trade school?
Well, there's a catch. If you've got the bulky stuff and you've got to take it to trade school,
Yeah.
then I would argue that you should try it.